and let's see how everything is going. Alrighty, good morning, everyone. Now, I am really excited about today's meditation because, in all honesty, it's one of my favorite themes. Now, in terms of the goal today, it doesn't matter if you have a bodily addiction. Doesn't matter if you have one of those emotional paths of least resistance where you have a short temper, a short fuse, or you kind of just go to the extremes often, or those mental crucibles that we have to deal with. If you're a person that really is negative and ruminates a lot, where you find yourself with one instant of reality not meeting your expectation, then it's just a mental circus, then this is the meditation for you. Why though? Because we're solving these problems, we're eliminating these problems, we are detaching ourselves from these associations, from these beliefs, from these paths of least resistance. Now, the most important thing to understand throughout this meditation is that if you have a purpose today, if you want to resolve something, if you want to take a step forward in your life, if you want to grow, utilize what the words are being focused on to your topic, to your subject, to whatever it is you're trying to work on. But most importantly, just understand that a lot of the stuff that's going to be talked about is really kind of understanding and building that recognition of how these came to be. And through this process of recognizing it and understanding it, we can liberate ourselves from it. So it's really important to utilize your own goal with this one. Really focus up and, again, have a purpose with this meditation. If you find yourself being addicted to something, say you don't want to do that anymore. Like you're done. Really put your foot down. The key with meditation, the key with anything really spiritual, is that you're the teacher here. Yeah, I may be a teacher by trade, but in truth, as I always tell my own students, I just point. That's all I do. I can just express things that you may have already confirmed yourself, but you have been living in so much self-doubt, you just don't believe yourself. You don't trust yourself. And a lot of what I do is really just reminding you what we already are, what's already present, what's already true. Because again, when we reveal what we're not, we're left with what we are. And that's the real purpose of meditation. And that's kind of where we get into the theme today of freedom from attachment, liberation from these things that make us feel so sticky, from all of those really intense moments that just overwhelm us, from the, again, bodily addictions that we can't escape, that we just feel control us rather than us making a conscious choice. Now, one of the most important things to think about with this is every attachment has an origin. So as we kind of gear ourselves into this more introspective search of kind of like, oh, I'm kind of curious about this, this is the perfect opportunity to really, again, find that purpose, find that something that you really want to resolve today. Now, per usual, just find a nice comfy spot and get some water real quick. And allow yourself really just to simply relax. Again, as we explore together, utilize your own experiences, utilize your own problems, really have those at the forefront of your mind. And again, have that purpose, have that intention to really liberate yourselves from these things, to solve these problems, because ultimately you determine your reality. And if you don't know that you can end these things, if you don't want to end these things, then these are things you need to ask yourselves. Do I really want to let go of this? Can I really let go of this? What's holding me back from letting go of this? So we're going to explore some of these questions today. But again, this is like one of the most powerful meditations, because this topic itself starts to kind of unravel that ball of clutter and confusion that is life. So if you're nice and comfy, I'm going to get started here. So from here, allow yourself to simply relax. Make sure you're sitting up with normal posture, or lying on the floor, ensuring you don't fall asleep. Per usual, we're going to start with our bells and our alms. Feel free to chant along in your own home. When each of us are born into this world, we are born an empty slate, an empty hard drive. But the moment we land here, we begin to absorb, we begin to learn. And we do this all through observation, through recognition, and utilizing our powers of attention and our understanding. We create action. We learn to talk. We learn to walk. We learn to write and run and play and laugh. But most importantly, we do this process indiscriminately. For like a dry sponge tossed into a bowl of water, it doesn't matter what was in it. It will soak it up. We must see this as the initial start to our journey, because each of us has gone through a life where we have learned and absorbed information, techniques, modes of expression, habits, through the reference frame of others. Constantly building and building and building, we place them upon ourselves. But what lies underneath it all? These are questions we must come to ask ourselves. Ultimately, we can look at the contradictions in our own lives to see just how far these conditionings, these predetermining factors, have impacted our lives. Look no further than our anger. Look no further than our sadness. How do we express ourselves? And is it like our loved ones? Is it like those who raised us? How do you act in this world? How do you carry yourself? What do you value as good and bad? Was this not gained and learned from another? Were you born into an addiction, physically, mentally, or emotionally? The power of questions allow us to see through clearly, to address these foreign objects within our own being. For they contradict with how we feel we are with what we actually do in life and how we actually are in life. Do you find yourself getting swept away, or are you in conscious control? We must understand that unless we are aware of how we are behaving, it is an effortless expression based in these conditionings, based in these predetermined behaviors, understandings, perceptions. Our truths are based in others. So we must come to determine our own for full liberation. Because attachment is nothing more than a belief. It's nothing more than a habit. And to break these cycles, we must first see them. We must first address that they are there. Do you control the body, or does the body control you? Look within your own life. When has it failed you? When has it been rebellious in its nature? When has it been addicted? And what have you done to stand for it? Have you cast a vote to continue the addiction? Or have you stood up and taken your stand against it? Life is full of mysteries, but the only one that we can solve is the mystery of our own being. For each of us has this doorway of opportunity. When we look within the patterns of our own self, we can see the ripples and influences of our past. So why do we carry it through our present? Why do we lug it into our future? In this path of development, this inner looking, more often than not, you will find discrepancies between what you see and how this world works. But do not let that deter you that you are on the wrong route. For society as a whole is misguided. Our understanding of each other and ourselves is misinformed and misidentified. So you must first come to recognize only you can know the truth of yourself. No one else and nothing else can determine that for you. No science, no philosophy, no person or people. Only you are capable of liberation. Your life is what you make of it. But you must seek to end the attachment. You must want it. For if you don't, you'll never let go. Those emotional expressions, a fiery temper, an introverted sadness, a fearful cowardice, doubt and loathing. We all suffer from the same plights of emotions. But just as we all suffer, we can each separate ourselves from them when we see the patterns. When we look at thoughts, when we look at emotions, when we look at the body as its own being, standing up, making its own claims, and you as consciousness, this I, this sense of me and self, you're the filter. You determine what to do, what to say. So again, which do you serve? The body or your own spirit? The key to understanding how we liberate ourselves from our attachment is we must be willing to let go of everything. Hold on to nothing dearly, for in truth, nothing has ever fully served us. Logically, how can it when we don't know who we are? We must seek to question our origin. What is original to us? What was learned? What was gained? And in truth, we can see that the way we act is gained. The way we think is a learned behavior. The way we express ourselves is taught upon us. And the things that we are drawn to and repel from in life are all based in our environment. And there is a unique sense of self, this shimmering spirit waiting to shine forth. But it is trapped underneath layers and layers of other people's ideologies, expressions, and beliefs. So what is your own form? What is your own pure expression? What are you without the influence of anyone else or anything else? What are we without the conditioning of others? Come to see yourself as a blank slate. See each thought, see each emotion as if it's a representative of the body. Put yourself in the position to choose, but most importantly, put yourself in the position to see that every impulse, every internal phenomena observed is an option. Nothing is forcing you to do anything. It's simply what voices are we accustomed to listening to and adhering to? Is it the loud voice inside, or is it the quiet? Is it to respond and react without hesitation, or is it to calmly digest the scene? There's no method, there's no technique beyond a simple looking to liberate ourselves. For we each are born with different conditioned aspects to our nature, different attachments, different beliefs and ideologies. But each of us hears our thoughts, sees our mental images, feels our emotions, and senses our bodies. And this is the common ground we need to work upon. For each of us, when we build the space through seeing, things don't become so intimate. You don't get drawn away or lured into it so much. Those that doubt at this point need to question, well, what else have I thought was true, which wasn't? You see, this path of reflection, of grief, of sorrow, are natural expressions of the human form. When we feel remorse and shame and guilt, it's because we know we could do better. We could have done more. We could have done something different. But when we enjoy the outcome, we overlook everything. Why is that? One must humbly and honestly ask themselves, who do I serve in this life? Is it truth, or is this dream of otherness? Is it this preconditioned set of behaviors? Only you have the power to answer these questions, but you must firmly take your stand and look. Most importantly, just like anything else that we thought we knew, when we learn otherwise, we seemingly can't believe we lived another way. Look at life as children. How were you when you discovered Santa Claus wasn't real? Did it break your spirit for eternity? Or did you simply have a good laugh, move on? This is no different. The expressions of emotions, the mental expressions, the bodily addictions, these are no different. Simply let go. Know that life is better without. Know that you can do and be more without. Question yourself, challenge yourself. Look at your own attachments. Why do they continue to exist? These habits and cycles perpetuate through our investment, through our looking, through our attention, through our love, through our affection, through seeking out that satisfaction that they give. But who is receiving the satisfaction? What is it that enjoys it? We can liberate ourselves through simple looking, through this simple seeing, Oh, I don't like that. That's not me. I don't want to do that. And you must understand, when you stand your ground, when you see and when you recognize and build understanding, you create space naturally, effortlessly. You can simply look and see the thought drift away just as fast as it came. You can feel the emotion peter out, even though it was bubbling and riling up. Whatever the response is of the body, you can dictate the form to do whatever you please. But you must come to understand your position in this life, your position in this form. You are not a victim or a slave of it. You are its rider, its leader, its master. And like any child that goes unchecked, it becomes bratty, it becomes spoiled, becomes entitled, privileged, and delusioned. Just as much, the body has its own patterns and cycles of brattiness that we must come to end. And in these early phases of introspection, you can expect resistance. For what child wants to give away its new toy when it just received it? Or even worse, when it's had it for years and loves it. But you must understand, to end attachment, you just simply not invest in it. It falls away on its own. All in life only exists because of your love. So you must understand that your affection, your attention, your investment builds, creates, manifests reality. So come to let go. Come to see it for what it is, all that holds you back as the cycles they are. Wheels that only spin when you choose to spin them. And when you stop spinning, they will cease to move. And the most beautiful aspect about life, about consciousness, about this effortless expression of our being is it's automatic. It's just that, effortless. You act, you act and live naturally all the time, even now. But because it is based in falsehood, chaos, suffering, the roller coaster of personhood arises. However, when you invest yourself and live in truth, you'll be in one with the flow, as life, with life, of life. And just as you lived effortlessly before, you will live effortlessly now. Just you will enjoy it a lot more. The sales pitch of awakening is liberation, is freedom. But freedom from what? Well, what is it that pains you? What is it that holds you back? What is it that you suffer from, that you're dissatisfied with? Most importantly, who is it that's being freed? What is it that's being liberated? We are each beings fully capable of transforming ourselves at a whim's notice. Because when we learn something, it changes how we see everything, how we interact with everything. And when we come to see when we come to question ourselves and learn that these voices inside, that these emotions inside are nothing more than suggestion, then you can filter and choose. But most importantly, you come to see your life has been lived without these emotions and thoughts. And the best moments in our life is when our internal experience is silent and we're fully embracing ourselves in this moment called now, life itself. The mental forms, the emotional patterns, the bodily addictions and attachments. All of these take us away from what's currently arising. All of these aspects of life put us in a position to misinterpret it, to isolate ourselves and others, to judge, to fear, to doubt, to hate. And although we do feel the good emotions like love and happiness and satisfaction, how quick and fast do they go? How materialistic are they based in? We must come to see that the purest joys of life come through letting go of everything. No expectation, no fear, just simply living life and enjoying this play like when we were children. But we must see that over time we pick up these layers of conditioning and attachment. We solidify them with our daily addiction, our daily investment, and our lack of investigation. But these bodily attachments, these mental thought forms and emotional patterns, they are houses built out of cards. And quickly they crumble when you really start to test the foundation. When you find yourself in a stressful situation, question who's being stressed? What's the actual problem here? When you find yourself being overwhelmed with a certain emotion, look at it and see, where did this come from and why is it here now? See it for what it is. The body is a vessel to provide information for us. But we must not determine everything based upon these random happenings of our internal dialogue. Because again, the simple expressions of your very nature and being have been built upon others. How you perceive a situation, how you perceive yourself, how you look at life, what you value, what you fear, what you hate. Everything has been built upon others. Everything is a massive wave of conditioning. And until we wake up from that, until we try to build understanding from that statement, we'll forever be lost at sea, splashing about, getting thrashed around by the waves. So wake up, look deeper. Don't allow the automatic, don't allow the impulsive behaviors to sweep you away. Take a stand, whether it be for a second or for the rest of your life. Every ounce of effort and investment in not going down those same paths of least resistance will help liberate you from these intimate, passionate forms of attachment. For everything adheres to this law of inertia, of attraction and repulsion. And attraction simply arises when we really enjoy, or when we continually do and express. And as said many times before, it becomes this path of least resistance. It becomes the first outlet of expression, your base form, the lesser form. And in this sense, you must continue to push deeper to let go of these attachments. Only through our recognition and understanding can we repel from them. Because it's that simple statement of, I'm not that. I don't like that. I'm not going to listen to that. That begins the process of distancing yourselves from these once intimate expressions. Walking away from a scene before you can respond in a way that's destructive builds the willpower and space to liberate yourself from attachment. Questioning each thought thoroughly and diligently provides space. It doesn't matter what you suffer from. It doesn't matter what you choose to resolve. Each of us is capable, but we must look. For without this looking, without this questioning, we can never see the problem. And if we can never see the problem, how can we understand it to resolve it? You see, the path of liberation, the path of awakening, it's all an inward looking, an inward search, an experiment of ourselves, and a play of self-exploration to truly determine and know firsthand what we are, what you are, what we all are. But to discover what we are, we must identify those things and aspects that are not us. We can only see our truth when we can identify our falsehoods. We can only live as our pure, unrefined self when we eliminate the foreign objects of conditioning. We are each beings capable of transformation and creation. And the first step to uplift your life in any way, shape, or form is to transform your understanding of yourself, to push your limits, to push your capabilities, to test yourself, to practice, to grow. You've learned your whole life and gained all of your skills through observation. So gear that gaze inward. Learn from yourself. Gain from your life experiences and your own internal phenomena. For it is our birthright, and it is the first step in this life to truly live happy and free. For how can we play a game if we don't know who's playing it? And we can only discover what we are when we identify and reveal what we are not. And that concludes our meditation for the morning. Now, with anything in terms of conditioning, in terms of attachment, in terms of those things that we really, really want to hold on to, in terms of those things that we really hold dearly as ourselves. Oh, I have to act like that. I have to talk like that. That's just how I am. That's how this. Don't settle for the quick answer. Don't settle for the deflection, the excuse. Dig deep. Look why. And really, the purest way to see if this is truly us and if this is truly how we want to be is to question and act on, well, how would I feel if someone that I cared about was doing that to me? And that's the ultimate way to liberate ourselves, is to simply look and apply it. Use your imagination as the tool it is to really, really kind of play this mental experimentation game, your mental fighting, right? It's this process of introspection that is the most powerful, because ultimately we're curious creatures. Look at any child. And when we put ourselves in a position where we assume we know everything and we believe ourselves to be at a point where we can gain no more knowledge or truth, then we're closing out those doors and windows of opportunity. And that fundamentally is what brings us back into these patterns of attachment and really stops us from recognizing them. And the most powerful thing that any of us can do is really just look at ourselves in the mirror and really say, what's real here? What is actually me? What's truthful about this being that I call myself, this identity that I have? Because again, we learn these behaviors, we learn these expressions, not only through the people around us, but through our experiences, through our traumas, through our pains, through our successes, and it's these moments that, again, kind of serve as those stones in the pond that just kind of echo throughout our life. And in terms of attachment, the only thing that I can really say that will help you is be diligent. Don't settle. Continue to push. Because a lot of the questions that, I propose in the meditation that I actually push students towards is really just to address your own hypocrisy. It's to address the contradictions that we live all the time, but really try to ignore. And those are those things where it's, when you look yourself in the mirror and really try to apply it, say like, okay, well, what if I was doing that to someone else? How would that feel? What if they were doing that to me? How would I see this situation? How would I respond? And ultimately, I always like to say, look at those people that you actually don't like, because it's something that can rub you the wrong way, especially depending on who it is. But we're more often than not very similar to the people that we hate the most. So that's just a little piece of wisdom gained through the years, that, it's those moments of, oh, I really don't like that about that person, that, it's because it's that ounce of hypocrisy that subconsciously we just, we have a red flag on because we do it ourselves, but we don't do it in a way like them. So I can't tell you how many times I've heard that in different conversations. um, but the most important thing really is to push that understanding of what's true, to push that understanding of, okay, well, when did I learn how to behave like this? When did I learn how to express myself like this? Why do I see things this way? What could be the reason for that? It's one of the reasons why I find spirituality so fun and like the meditation so fun is because you're your own detective. It's like, it's really are. You're the student, you're the teacher, you're the problem, you're the solution. It's like you're watching a movie about yourself. and you're learning how to, you're trying to see the patterns, you're trying to see all the different areas of like, oh, well, that's a foreshadowing moment. Ooh, I can see that being a hindsight kind of learning opportunity, so it's, again, really kind of push and question where you've come from, what you've gained in this life. And if you don't, you're just going to constantly keep missing the lessons, and they're just going to go over the head. They're going to go over your head. You're going to deflect and kind of push it onto someone else. But ultimately, it's all on you. The world is crazy right now, but do I get swept away in that? No, no. Because when you discover truth, you don't fear, and because you live in love. And in truth, that fear is the opposite of love, because love is inclusive. Love is like, yeah, I'm all about it. Fear is just, mm. People always want to say hate, but hate's a factor of fear. But ultimately, we must understand that separation is your biggest clue to liberation. Why do I say that? Because separation is, if you want to think about it like this, the ego, or what a lot of people call the ego, this lesser self, all the bad stuff about our being, if you want to call it that, don't worry about definitions. But the ego, this kind of subconscious, this arrogance of our, individuality, is based on just that separation. It's based on this fundamental belief that you're alone, that it's just you, that it's this, that's this. Now, when you use separation to separate from those thoughts, from those emotions, from those physical addictions, from that ideology itself, your entire life will transform like that. Because life is always giving us the answers. Always. I tell everyone I talk to about this stuff, doesn't matter if you're a student or not. Life is the greatest teacher. Life is the ultimate teacher. Always in our experience of life are we given signs of what's real and what's true, and these moments to really question. But never once do we carry that over, because, again, we take it for granted. Society has lots of play in that, but ultimately it's because our own arrogance and separation, in its essence of, oh, I know more, I know better, but that's, again, everything has a little bit of ounce of, a little grain of salt in it. You gotta see it with a grain of salt, rather, because there's a little bit of truth in everything in that sense. Really, why we have this base separation and why we think we're all this and this and this, is because the ego is misinterpreting our true power and divinity in its very essence, that in essence, everything is one. Whether you've come to recognize that or see it yet, that's another story. But everything is one. So the ego manipulates this truth into saying, oh, well, I am just the one. That you're not part of life. Like, literally everything in the universe is life. Everything in the universe is life. It's all the same energy. We know this. Science knows this. We've proven this. It's all one. Energetically, it's all one. We're all interconnected. But our ego, that survival mechanism in this human body, is just like, no, it's just me, though. So you need to understand that the truths of our own being, are expressed all the time, and the avenues of questioning are always there, and it's this sense of separation that really needs to be understood, because if you can really tap into that, into utilizing separation to, again, separate from these mental thought patterns, these emotional forms, these bodily addictions, then you can use the biggest tool you've had, because you do it all the time. You constantly have been separating yourself and kind of closing yourself off from things. But when you really learn to utilize that power, you can navigate your life without the bullshit. You don't have to deal with the conditioning. You don't have to deal with those things overwhelming you all the time. You just escape them. And that's the real power of this introspection. It's like in dreams. We go to sleep every night, and most people are dreaming full on in their dream, not even in their own body. They're recognizing they're not in their own body. They're in some crazy sci-fi land. Some nonsense is going on. Yet they wake up and they're like, oh, Okay. But in that dream, did it not still feel like you? Did it still not have that same sense of me? So these are where you start getting into those more spiritual or philosophical questions of, well, what's the difference between that dream and here? The real thing about spirituality that's going to set you light years ahead of normal practitioners is to let go of everything you've ever learned and to truly come to understand only what you can know yourself. And when you do that, I can't put it into words how revolutionary your life will become. Like it's not only going to transform, you won't be living in the same world. It's going to be the same reality, but it's going to completely change because your perception of it is from a different reference frame. And that's the power, that's the opportunity that each of us has when we really question to push our attachments. Because when we no longer live in these kind of self-created problems and cycles, you're kind of just left out in the middle of the woods like, well, what do I do now? And that's kind of an awesome start, right? Because then the real search and looking can begin. And even if you don't want to take it that next step, if you don't even want to go the awakening route, at least you won't be putting any more negativity out into the world or upon yourself. And that's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's enough, like that's enough. So I always try to push and point and guide and, and really put that sales pitch in for this path of awakening and introspection because I hear everyone all the time in my life complaining about things, complaining, and very little talk of solution. This is the one way you can actually fix your problems. It's not a magic cure. It's not like a one-day pill. It takes work. It takes effort. You have to look. Because as always, nothing worthwhile is ever easy. But what I will tell you is this, and it's my promise to you in this spiritual path. When you consistently start to look at this stuff and you start to see it more and more and more and more and more and more, it's just like in the meditation. It becomes automatic. It becomes just as effortless as everything else you've ever done. It becomes just as effortless as life is now. You know, when you need to use your mind to figure things out in your imagination, you use it. You know, when you have an emotion come up, you recognize where it's coming from, you see it, and it goes away. It doesn't distract you, it doesn't take you into these different things, making you have regrets and doing things. It's the same thing with the body. You see what it wants, and you're like, nah, I'm good, not right now. And you determine your story. It's like the greatest sales pitch that I could ever say is that you just don't have to deal with so much crap anymore. And when you take off that jacket, that weight, this of attachment that all these things cause, you look back and you just laugh. You really do, because it's shocking how long we live with baggage that we don't really need. So I hope you've gained a lot. I hope you've been able to utilize this meditation and these words to really transform yourself, to look into your life, to investigate things, because ultimately, you know, you're your own key and you're going to be the only person, the only one who can solve these great mysteries and questions of life. And ultimately, in your path of awakening, attachment is only as much as you make it. You're only attached to what you really, are affectionate for. And when you start to look at things honestly and you start to look at yourself in a more humble fashion in this sense, things just line up and click and you don't really need to do anything because the process just does its own thing. And, that's just what I just want to, my last piece of advice is just this is the ultimate expression of love. I mean, it's loving yourself. It's healing yourself. It's bettering yourself to better yourself and grow. It's not just getting caught up in a work world. It's not just getting caught up in this, what society wants me to do. It's learning what's best for you and healing yourself, treating yourself with respect, treating yourself with that true selfless love, and that's the opportunity that each of us has. That's the opportunity that you have. So treat yourself with love, investigate, explore, seek to determine what is false in your life, and have fun. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Have a good week. Bye.